Hello, my name is Christos Tuton and I'm the Vice President of NEPOMAK UK. And I'm sat here today with a fellow NEPOMAK UK committee member and friend, Stephanos Ioannou. Thank you, Stephanos, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here today.
Stephanos is a candidate for the Conservative Party in the local elections in May for the Southgate ward in Enfield. And if he's elected, Stephanos will represent Southgate on Enfield Council. Given he's doing this incredible thing, the NEPOMAK UK committee thought it would be a great opportunity to speak to him about his experience and his campaign, and more generally about the engagement of young Cypriots in politics here in Britain. One of NEPOMAK's key aims is to encourage our members and the community to engage with politics, and before the general election in 2017 we made a video about why it's important to vote and why it's important for young people to have their voices heard in British politics. So yeah, it's great that we're here today to talk about this issue, and I'd like to introduce Stephanos a bit by asking him some questions about his background and where he grew up. So Stephanos, if you could tell us a little bit about that.
So, thank you for having me on the programme. So I was born in Wychmore Hill, grew up in North London, born to Cypriot parents, attended school locally, went to St Andrew's School, and then went on to Highlands, went to Greek school, not only undertook GCSE but also did my A-levels there, and now I'm currently at uni. I'm at University of Hertfordshire. So yeah, I grew up in a typical Greek household with both my parents making sure that I know my culture, and my twin sister as well, Maria, who is part of my rock. So yeah, that's a bit about me, about my family.
Very supportive family.
Very supportive family, yeah. I wouldn't be able to do many of the things I could without them. They always push me on, so yeah, it's always good to have them next to me.
And you said you were studying. What are you studying?
Study economics. Let's see if I go and do postgraduate, you never know. But yeah, for the time being, I'm just doing my undergrad and running for council simultaneously. So yeah.
And how are you balancing your time doing both those things?
Balancing politics with uni is very difficult. I signed up to the Conservative Party when I was 15 years old, and ever since then I've been roped in, whether it be in the youth wing, European campaigns, and subsequently, you know, running in an election myself. So it's demanding, but as long as you know the balance, it shouldn't put people off. So long as you maintain that balance and you're not scared and you say to yourself, you prioritise and you say, right, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, then you will be fine. You shouldn't be scared of it.
Great. And another part of your time is working for NEPOMAK on a voluntary basis. Yeah. So tell us a bit about your involvement in NEPOMAK.
So I started off with NEPOMAK when my uncle, who's involved with the Federation, he told me, look, as a young Cypriot, you have to get involved in NEPOMAK. NEPOMAK is part of the fabric. It's a key part of the organisation, just like the National Federation of Cypriots, just like our Greek schools and our churches, Hellenic TV. It's the basis, I believe, of the youth of this country, and I believe they've got more than 1,000 members, but anyhow, so I got invited and I said, look, they said to me, sorry, look, get involved. So I went along to one of the meetings, and ever since then, I formed a relationship. I thought it was a good bunch of young Greek Cypriots, like-minded, who wanted to do something for the community. I mean, they've done numerous charity, they've organised social events, they've promoted our culture and sought to make something good out of that by making public awareness. So the main thing is just maintaining your culture, being around a good like-minded group of friends and promoting Cyprus in any way possible. So yeah, when I joined NEPOMAK, never looked back, and they've been so active. You're never bored. You know, you've always got something to do in NEPOMAK, and that's really, really good.
And you've been an elected member of the committee in the UK region for a couple of years now. And so tell us about some of the projects you've done. I know there was the Santa Shoebox charity campaign, and you were quite involved in that. So tell us a little bit about what that entailed.
So the committee has been going from strength to strength. We've been getting quality members, all of which are assigned different tasks throughout the year, and everything is done on a group effort basis. So with the Santa Shoebox Appeal, it was a really, really good cause. So myself, Mary Savidis, Georgie Taylor and a few others, forgive me if I haven't mentioned their names, and a few others, we got together and we said, look, let's do something this Christmas where we give something back to young people of the Cypriot homeland community back at home. So we set out on the Santa Shoebox Appeal, which filled up a shoebox full of toys and all sorts of things that you can give for Christmas, to presents for young ones at Christmas, and we sent them off to Cyprus through the generosity of people such as Mondial, which did the shipping for us free, Bigela Self Storage, which gave us free packaging, and also the community, which donated free goods to put into shoeboxes. We went out to the Greek schools. Mary did. I remember she went out to the Greek schools, and we managed to get Greek schools to get on board. And it was a fantastic effort, because when you saw the result, the pictures on the faces of children back at home, when they received the presents, it was something amazing. And if it wasn't for NEPOMAK, they wouldn't have had presents. So yeah.
Yeah, and it was incredible because there were Greek schools in Birmingham, Stoke, Cardiff that also took part in that campaign, and they'd never really engaged with us before, and that was a really good first contact. And yeah, like you said, seeing the pictures of children in the Magarios Hospital in Nicosia and generally in the schools around Nicosia was just a fantastic thing, and we were all quite
I remember
pleased with the outcomes.
I remember Harry when he went up to Birmingham with a car, and he drove hundreds of miles to collect something like 20-30 boxes. It just proved that every single box counts. So it was a genuine group effort, and it was so rewarding. So NEPOMAK, there you go.
It's a great thing to be involved with, though.
Definitely.
So you're a pretty busy guy. So what made you get involved with politics while you were so young?
That's a very good question. Why did I get involved in politics? So the first time I genuinely said to myself, right, you know what, let's see what can be done. It was the youth wing, so it was a time with David Cameron, where you know the time is different. So we've kind of moved on now with Theresa May. But back with David Cameron, we were socially liberal, and we believed in you know, the big society and all those kind of other values, and that's something that I got on board with. And the first time I got involved in politics was in the youth wing in Conservative Future, and I was invited to stand for committee, and I ended up becoming chairman of the branch for Enfield Southgate, David Burrows' then constituency, now with Bambos. But yeah, and we built up the youth wing from there. We got 10, 20 members, and we organised socials, and it was just an opportunity to form kind of like a youth base within our area. But why did I start that off in the first place? Because I had to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to give something back to the community which I live in, and it's kind of reflected also what I'm doing now, standing for council in Southgate. I've always looked to better the lives, not only of the local community, but say what I believe, and I'm quite opinionated, so getting involved in politics was something that I said to myself, yeah, and I don't regret it. I don't regret it, and I encourage others to do it as well.
Why do you think it's important that young people and young Cypriots like yourself are engaged and involved?
I think the number of Cypriots in the UK is around 300, 400,000, correct me if I'm wrong.
300,000.
300,000 Cypriots living here in the UK. We've assimilated into society where we're going to schools, established businesses, great professions. And then you ask yourself, hold on a minute, we're doing so well as a community. Why don't we represent ourselves on a much greater basis in the national front, in politics? And we do have other councillors with Labour, we have Liberal Democrat, and we have Conservative councillors. We recently had our first elected Cypriot MP, Bambos. So there are Cypriots getting into politics, but the point is that young Cypriots in particular, who are the next generation, they shouldn't be scared to get involved in politics, because it is rewarding and you can do a great deal of change to your community. But it's the fundamental point that if the Jewish community or the Hindi community or any other community can manage to get their representatives on that level, then why can't we? We are equally as educated, we are equally as capable, and we're such a close community. I think it's, you know, we should really be up there.
Yeah, and it seems to be like one of the last areas where Cypriots need to start excelling, really. I think we've got some top lawyers, we've got top business people, like you said.
Top teachers.
Top teachers, yeah, exactly, as we proved recently with Andrea Zafiragu winning the Global Teacher Prize. But yeah, and now with Bambos Charalambous in Enfield Southgate, we've got our first MP from the community. And I think that will be, maybe that will break the barrier and kind of inspire other people to do the same. But you mentioned there that Cypriots might be a little bit afraid. What do you mean by that?
So politics isn't an easy thing. There could be all sorts of critical people. It's very difficult to get your name out there and to preach on someone else's name. I mean, when I go out campaigning, not everybody that I knock on the door or everybody that I speak to are necessarily supportive of me. But if you're genuinely a person who cares about your community, if you've grown up locally, if you care and you share some sort of passion that can resonate with somebody else, then people will look at you and say, you know what? Maybe I'm feeling this person. Maybe I'll hand up my vote. And it's a case where somebody from that might be lifelong in one party will come the election will give you, say, one vote, or for whatever party, whatever background you are, because they know you, because they understand who you are. So it's about who you are and what you want to give back to your community and what you believe in that resonates with other people that say, I have confidence in this person. But people, they shouldn't be afraid, especially young Cypriots. They should not be afraid.
What advice would you give a young Cypriot?
In respect of politics?
Yeah.
So the first thing is to do your research, find out which party is best for you. And I just want to go back. So when I was at Conservative Future, I spoke with people from my party, like-minded, but also I spoke to people from the other side. You shouldn't be afraid to engage people in politics, whatever background they are. You should be open, you should be tolerant, you should respect the fact that other people have views. But to get people to the point where they participate in politics on an active level is good enough. I always said when I was chairman of Conservative Future in my area, I don't mind what aspect of politics you are from, as long as you go out and vote, because a lot of young people, they don't vote. So my advice to a young Cypriot would be, do your research, find out which political party you align yourself most closely to. You might not agree with everything, but at least you align yourself with some sort of ideology. Go and sign up, become a member, and then see what you can do since then. I mean, or if you don't find a political party, then get involved with the National Federation of Cypriots. They have a cross-party, ideological cross-attitude basis on their panel. So that's a good starting point. And NEPOMAK. So there you go.
Of course, I think
they're not political.
In NEPOMAK, we're not very political. We have committee members involved in different parties. So, like you said, it's important to engage wherever it is, and you just happen to have taken the step to be a candidate for local council. And kind of coming back to what's really important to a lot of Cypriots in this country, the Cyprus issue. How do you think that being involved in politics can help raise awareness on that?
The Cyprus issue since 1974, it's been prolonged for so many years, and organisations such as the National Federation and other splinter groups have tried so hard to put through this issue. And it is succeeding slowly, but it's a really long issue because we have, of course, a Turkish Cypriot community here. But from a personal perspective, so my father left as a refugee in 1974. My grandparents, they moved over to Greece. And the Cyprus issue is still an issue that we talk about, even at the dinner table. It comes out in passing. We still organise, the National Federation of Cypriots, they organise rallies every single year. It's still an integral part, even for UK Cypriots, and even for global Cypriots, that still want part of their homeland and want some sort of justice. And there have been people who have passed in life who have sadly not seen a solution. So the struggle is real, and the reality is that this is going to be a really, really slow process. However, UK Cypriots and UK Cypriot organisations slowly are getting the message across, and people are starting to take this really, really seriously, because it can't be that we're the last divided capital city in Europe. So how can young Cypriots contribute? Number one is to keep themselves informed, make sure that they read Cypriot news, make sure that they lobby their MPs, which is really, really important. Lobby their MPs, whether it be Bambos, Teresa Villiers, Matthew Offord, or places where our community is strong. Make sure that you write to your MP when things do arise, and make sure you say, look, this is an issue, please take it seriously. I remember with the EEZ, I received an email from the National Federation, and I later received an email telling me 2,000 people had signed. 2,000 people to go and send out a message like that on a community basis to the government is very, very important. And young people can be part of that. So don't just disregard, don't just look over issues. Make sure that you take action.
Yeah, and I think by engaging in a political party, you're exposing your opinions to a much larger group of people. And if your opinions are on healthcare, on education, on Brexit, you'll also take with you your opinion on the Cyprus issue. And that will contribute to the public debate if you're talking about that, raising awareness about that to people that might not necessarily have ever thought about it or considered it. So I think that's a really important thing for people to do.
Even when I go on a doorstep, I'm standing for local council, but people, they still ask me about issues such as Brexit and the Cyprus issue. And both Labour and Conservative Party policy has always been for a solution to the Cyprus issue, for one that respects both sides, however, a solution of some kind. So, yeah, continuously working towards that.
Yeah, and I think our community has actually done a really good job in keeping it on the agenda of British politicians and in British discourse. And yeah, like you said, both parties strongly support a free united Cyprus for the benefit of all Cypriots, and that's really important. And it's a great achievement of the community as well. Yeah, so going back to some of your personal experiences, you've done some pretty cool things. You've been on Newsnight on the BBC, right?
Yeah. So I've been on Newsnight, I've been on BBC Two, I've been on Greek TV, Cypriot. I've even been on Turkish TV. Yeah.
What were you discussing on these places?
So on Hellenic TV, on Victoria Derbyshire, it was the referendum that the Greeks voted ochi, no, to the Euros, to the proposed bailout. And that was very, very interesting. We had other panellists, one economist, one political analyst, and one ordinary member of the public. That was on Victoria Derbyshire. I've been also regarding the Conservative Party as an activist and somebody who's involved in the party. I've been on daily politics and Sunday politics, but Greek TV as well. So I remember once it was regarding the Parthenon marbles. Another one at a conference, but on Turkish TV, that was regarding the election outcome where Alexis Tsipras won. And so I've been across numerous countries. It's been very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's great. And so those are kind of big national and international issues that you've been discussing, but now you're focused on more local stuff. What are the important things in Southgate and in Enfield?
Yeah, so I had to make the move and say to myself, right, okay, I have to start representing at least on a local level because number one, it is my area. I've grown up locally in the area. It's very much more important to me. So my plans for Southgate, so in the manifesto, we have some decent points. One of them is to plant 2,018 trees across the borough. In a space of 1 year, to reopen Southgate Police Station because we do have a genuine problem with crime, to fight antisocial behaviour. One of the major policies which I had an input on was for the empty shops task force along Southgate High Street. I don't know how many residents and how many people who shop realise actually how many shops are empty. And that's because, number one, there is an issue with parking, which we are also tackling 30 minutes free parking for customers. But the empty shops task force, for the first years, I think it's 2 to 3 years, they get business rate relief, so they have time to become established. And it's an integral part. I mean, look on Southgate High Street, to mention names, you know, we have our Fantozzi, our Wilton, and then we have our multinationals such as KFC and McDonald's. But it's about supporting the local businesses, making sure that, number one, they are all filled up, making sure that people go there to make sure that we support them, because some of them employ local people as well. And it's nice to have a high street that looks nice and reflects the area for its true worth. And Southgate is a bustling area with some prime people, you know, again, Bank of Cyprus as well, you know, they take up some parts of the parade and you know, they've been there for many, many years. So we have some established people there. So the high street in Southgate is a very, very big issue. But another problem in Southgate is road conditions. So I've always been, I've not been against cycling, but I've been against the £30 million invested in cycle lanes because it deters away the fact that already road conditions are so poor and motorists, they spend thousands of pounds fixing their cars. I don't think that was fully justified, although I support cycling. I think some money also should have been put aside to say motorist concerns, because some people, they've had problems. So road conditions, supporting local businesses, maintaining our parks, but then there's also aspects such as education. You know, as a young 21-year-old recently come out of the education system, schools are very, very important. And we have an abundance of primary schools in Southgate, but we don't have many secondary schools. Okay, we have Ashmore, but that's in Barnet. So it's priorities like that, and it's making sure that Southgate isn't forgotten about, because we have other parts of the borough which have prospered under the Labour administration. But regardless of administration, we need to make sure that the prosperity is spread across the borough. And another final thing, which I'm really, really proud about, is the festivals programme in Enfield. So we have a diverse range of cultures and backgrounds across our borough. One of them is Greek, and I went in there and I said, look, let's make sure that we have a young festivals programme where we support and we embrace the culture in our borough. So that's one thing that I'm really, really looking forward to, because celebrating diversity is a really, really important thing.
And coming up is the deadline to register to vote, right? When is that?
I can't remember off the top of my head. When is the deadline to vote? When is the deadline to vote?
17th of April.
17th of April. If you don't register to vote, then really, I mean, there was one, I did philosophy A-level, there was one quote by Plato where he said, if you don't vote and you don't exercise your vote, then you're going to be governed by fools. Because it's traditional people, they, as soon as someone gets elected, they immediately start to form a kind of dislike, or that they weren't represented properly, or you know, this person never came, or whatever, that basically they don't deserve to be there. Well, you had your chance, vote, make sure that you go and you vote. It doesn't matter what political party that you vote for, you've got to go, and you've got to go and exercise your vote. Especially, I mean, the women, they fought for their right to vote. Young people still, young people still don't vote, which I frankly can't understand. And it's not about disillusionment, because your vote means a very, very big thing. Looking South Kensington, where the Conservatives lost by 20 votes. 20 votes! So it's very, very important. Every single vote counts. Make sure that you sign up by the 17th of April.
And the election is the 3rd of May, right?
3rd of May.
3rd of May.
Thursday, the 3rd of May. The polls open, I believe, 7 in the morning. They close at 10 at night. Usually every polling district has about 5-6 polling stations, so it's not difficult. If you can't vote on the day, then there is a backup option where you can postal vote, and that's a free service provided by the council for anybody. So yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for answering those questions. Stephanos only 21 years old, and I think it's really inspiring that he's stepped up to be a candidate in the local elections. And on behalf of NEPOMAK UK, I'd like to say we're very proud of him to have one of our own committee members standing. And just generally, as we've discussed, it's so important that young Cypriots and young people have their voices heard, become more active in politics, because that's the only way to make positive change for all of our futures. And I'd like to finish off just by saying thank you to Hellenic TV for their support and for hosting this interview. Hellenic TV's cameras and interviews have played a vital role in bringing our community to life, bringing colour, sound and voice over a number of years now. So thank you very much to Hellenic TV for this. Thank you.
And if I might finish, Hellenic TV, again, we thank them for inviting us, for setting this up, and they play an integral part of a community, but also NEPOMAK, the National Federation, and the splinter groups across the spectrum in politics. But you make a very important point. Young people getting involved. Organisation, what do? NEPOMAK. And then you take it from there. There's so much going on across our community and across our groups. It's unreal. I encourage everybody to get involved. It's a no-brainer.
Thank you very much.